Fair use, fair use, fair use. The use of this video for education purposes only. I need you guys to go watch this video. Please. Greetings, greetings, greetings all. Hope everyone is going fine and watching the events as they unfold in the planet. No need to fear because they're just events. What will be, as the song says. You know, the world has been deliberately thrown into this chaos. There's several players in this thing, and some of them like the situation they're in, enjoy it. They see it as a game. Like I told you, this 2.5 gang, as I call them, it's you know, you got certain people that try to lead, and certain people that go in the opposite direction. You know, people talking about God and the devil, and then there's the people in between. See, the people in between, Adam and Eve. But to go there is a different story, because we believe Adam and Eve to be one person, two people, individuals, while it's not. But in this case, the losing player, who was the leader in the situation that we are dealing with today, after World War II, America became the only nation that was not economically disadvantaged. That's the only way I can put it, because the war still affected America in a devastating way. But they weren't disadvantaged like, say, England. When I got to England in 1974, I mean, the effects of the war were still there. You can see it. You walk the streets and you see it. It's in the faces of the people. Their language, when they talk to you, they were still talking about the war. During the war, there's, you know, especially the elder people. And America talked about it as that war across the ocean. You know, not as it was happening on our territory. But in the chaos, you're seeing something that you always see in any kind of game, when you see the player who is losing just reach out and overturn the board. There's some people who want to get back in the game real quickly. They start pulling together all the play, all the game pieces, and putting it back into places, you know, to start a new game. Right? And that's what you're seeing in a lot of nations today. And then there's some nations who say, you know what, I don't even want to play anymore. They're walking away, like China and Russia. And then you got some nations who will go with anything, like India. You see? Because India actually produces nothing except brain power. And though people hear a lot about Indian brain power, India is the biggest scammers on the planet. They have overtaken the Ukrainians. You hear what I'm telling you? They have overtaken the Ukrainians. Everybody talk about the Chinese breaking into computers. All they don't know what the Indians do. But anyway, some of them are now talking about the rules, changing the rules. You know, they come back to the table with the hope that they can have a say in changing the rules. But they can't. rules in economics are made out of necessity. Like, watch what China is doing. China is building something called Belt and Road. It was being done out of necessity because one nation was using their military power to blockade trade whenever necessary, whenever they see it's not working for them. So the Chinese had to build a separate trading routes around the planet on land, so that their ships, because they didn't have as many as the U.S., and their ocean going capabilities were not as vast as the U.S. They didn't have military vessels that they can defend themselves against the U.S. U.S. can bring up an aircraft carrier off China and say, hey, look, you either do this or we shut down everything. And if you read Chinese history, you'll see that this was done by the British, the French, the Dutch, and the U.S. They did it to China, they did it to Japan, to force them to trade with the U.S. and Europe. The Caucasians did the same thing to Africa. The only thing Africans did, instead of trading their resources at the time, well, when I say resources, I'm talking about resources in the ground. Instead of the ground resources, they traded the human capital, the human resources. And the human resources, the ground resources is going to stay in the ground unless the humans take it out. I hope you begin to see this thing as it. You didn't learn this in school. I'm telling you, you didn't learn this in school. They told you the basics, you know. This place has got 15 billion barrels of oil. We bring the machine to take it out. But you ain't talking about the people who built that machine, the people who found the oil, and the people who are going to operate the machine. Without the human, nothing happened. But anyway, let's continue the situation here. Some of the players, like the Indians, they sit underneath the table and wait for the scraps to fall off. The Africans do the same thing too, you know. But instead of waiting for the scraps to fall off, they wait for. It's like when you sit at the table and you got a bone and you throw it to the dog. No, that's what happened. That's the situation the African. The scraps that fall off the table may be a half a chicken. So the Indians will get the half chicken. But the Africans wait for the master to eat the meat off the bone and throw it on the ground. And they're waiting for things to get back to normal. That's how they do it. They wait for things to come back to normal. It's not the African people per se doing that. It's the leadership that's forcing their people to do it. The leadership created a military, not to defend Africa against external forces, but to suppress Africans, their own people. But anyway, the way this thing is working out is that the disruption is going to end. And you're going to watch it end. And I hope you're preparing for it, because if you prepare for it, you're going to come out on top. And if you come out on top as a diaspora, I hope that the Africans are going to stand beside you. Sometimes a man will hate you and kill you You see Africans do the same thing. I mean, all the leaders that ever stood up against the European were killed by Africans. The Europeans didn't come in and kill them. The Africans killed them. Handed in the case of a brother from Burkina Faso and Lumumba, they handed over to the Belgians, and the Belgians chopped them up. The French chopped them up. Can you imagine, you kill a man, but you are so devious, wicked, that you had to chop his body up. I hope that you guys teach your children that the French have to pay. It doesn't matter if they're the ones that did it died, their children have to pay for it, because they made our children pay, whether or not we were a slave for generations. They didn't say, well, our fathers did something to them and we're going to enslave their fathers and children. They enslaved the whole generations. See, so you let that thinking, they teach their children. Why do you think the European today still rule Africa? Because they teach their children to do the same thing that they did. So the mindset is still there. You say, well, those people died long. No, they didn't. They're still in their children's heads. If you talk to the children, they always talk about their great-grandfathers, how strong and what their grandfathers did. You read European history and see how proud they are of their history. This is not a joke. Y'all forgiving. Please. Please now. Why do you think there's judgment? And the judgment it goes all the way to, like they said, the third and the fourth generation. But you don't want to judge. Please. Anyway, second thing I want to talk to you about is brother in Burkina Faso, Mr. Captain Traore. You see who is coming out to support him and saying, hey, hands off him. Diasporans, you know. This thing didn't just spring up in Africa. You got to watch where it was planned and how it was executed. In one day, there was no, spontaneous thing going on. It was carefully planned all around the world one day. Now, you have to look at this thing carefully. Or we, I should say, because I am doing the same thing. I'm looking at all the old leaders and what they will do now that they seeing the world joining the diaspora. Now, when I say the world join, even Caucasians are in this, They say hands off Traore. Caucasians. When they're in, I look at them side-eyed, but I keep an eye on them to make sure they're not disrupting, they're not coming in and pretending to be there and disrupt things. But the diasporans and the African people, the roots, the branches, and the trunk of the tree. And the old men are shaking because it's all coming together. Told you the African youth gonna have to do this. So now the old leaders don't have control of the diaspora. They have control of their own state. The Africans in their own state. My thinking now, what are they going to do against diasporans in their state? Are they going to restrict you? Because a lot of them started letting you come in so they can get your money. Like Ghana, Kenya, Tanzania. Tanzania let you come in, but from the time you land in the airport, the hand is out. Hand over the money. What are these leaders going to do now? Because now they're worried because Africans and diasporans are coming together. I urge you to watch what's going on wherever you are. Because the old African leaders think that things are going to come back to what they think is normal or what was happening before, but it's not. And even if they attempt to force their hand, there will be problems. Everything takes time. So don't expect it to come about next year or the year after. See, Ghana came out and invited us back. When? 2019. Now 2025. 6 years. Normally cycles like this take 7 years. And in the 8th year, things begin to change. But now it's changing already. And that change came about because of what America did. Not what Trump is doing now, but what America did in Ukraine 3 years, 3 years ago. And if you go back to 2014, 10 years ago. So watch what's going on. Watch what your leaders in your country do and act accordingly. Act accordingly. Don't let yourself be in an unsafe position, in an unsafe place. Like I said, there will be Africans who are going to protect you, but you have to find them and work with them before the evil starts. You have to find them and work with them. Show them, you're writing a book. And you show them the book and say, look, this is what we have to do. Because you can see things are falling apart. And once you hand them that book, they're going to hand it to other people. Have a great day wherever you are. Peace.